Hey, how's it going, everyone? Justin again, as always. Thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back. Cheers to those of you that have your beers. I hope you're enjoying your work week so far. That being said, today's topic is going to be called protecting your battery. Little tiny tricks and tips that you can do to help prolong the life of your battery. We're going to talk about them today. All right, that being said, some of you guys may have seen these things a time or two. These are battery terminal protector pads. You might see them on the shelf. Sometimes they're red, green, etc. Other times they're black and fuzzy like this. They're just little tiny pieces of felt coated with a certain protective chemical on the inside that you would tuck underneath or on top of the terminal, but underneath the terminal end itself. And that was to help protect the acid from getting up into the terminal end and then effectively putting cancer in the cables. What do I mean by that? There's corrosion. So you have the acid, it leaks out, it starts this whole like metallurgy kind of process. Look, I'm not a scientist, okay? I probably have this thing way off. All I know is it's meant to protect the battery terminal ends from getting very much corroded with a bunch of acidic junk that just collects on them and then gets down into the cable itself and then causes huge resistance problems, which then effectively makes it to where you could burn your starter out and make it harder for the charging system to work. An old school trick or tip was to take a penny and stick it on or nearby or underneath the terminal end itself, nearest the terminal post. Because it was copper, the idea is that all the acid and all the chemicals and corrosion that were taking place would formulate, hover over, and soak up towards that penny, and it would avoid going into the actual cable itself. Unfortunately, pennies are not made out of 100% copper anymore, so that doesn't really work as good as it used to. I'm not saying it doesn't work, I'm just saying it doesn't work as good as it used to. Something else that you can do if you do have battery terminal corrosion issues is you can take yourself a little cup of baking soda and some really, really hot water, and you mix it up and you pour it on it. You might have seen it in a past video that I've done. You pour it over the top of that and it eats away all the acid and corrosion that's taking place not only on the terminal end, in between the terminal, but also in the cables itself. It helps kind of suck and pull it out, and then you just rinse it away, and you do it repeatedly over and over and over until eventually you've got most of it out. So that's a good way to try to get rid of it. You might have also seen some of the battery terminal spray, this red spray paint that they spray all over it. Look, when I was in a colder climate like Oregon and back east in Virginia, I believe that stuff actually worked really well because I had a lot of cold, wet climate, and I was seeing battery corrosion more often than I am in the high desert. Being in the desert, I don't really see a lot of that. I could spray the top of it all day long, and I'm not seeing really any corrosion protection difference between that and not having it. So usually the cars that I've seen that have been sitting for a while or have been leaking acid for a while is what causes it, whether they were sprayed on or not. If you have the cancer on your battery terminal ends and in the cables, spraying it with some protective coating after you lightly clean it up isn't going to protect it. It's too late. Doing it prematurely, so after you get a new battery, you clean the cables, maybe you replace the cables, yeah, you're probably going to go a pretty long ways. But we don't see a lot of corrosion on batteries as much as we used to. I used to see it all the time. Now it's real hit and miss. Sometimes on older vehicles you usually see it, and that's mainly because the batteries are not being well maintained. What do I mean by that? So every so often a vehicle sits in the front yard or in the backyard or in the garage. Maybe it's not being ran or whatever, and the cable ends are left on the battery, and it's got some kind of draw going on, but it's not enough to where it would completely drain the battery. But sometimes there's a big enough draw where it does drain the battery. And you fire it up and you make the alternator work extra hard because you let it sit for a few days at a time or a week at a time, and it has to work extra hard to try to re-pull in that charge from a low battery voltage. Something that you can do is to get yourself a little battery trickle charger. Put it on 2 amps overnight if you're planning on driving the vehicle the next day. Some of you might have a classic car that you only take out on weekends. Put a trickle charger on it, trickle charge it overnight, come back out, disconnect it, you should be good to go. So those are some of my helpful tricks and tips when it comes to battery maintaining. I might not have covered all of them. I covered the ones that were fresh in my head that I remembered because I was thinking about it today as I was replacing a battery. But please let me know down in the comments, what do you do to help protect and prolong the life of your battery? Let me know what you do. I would love to hear about it. Don't tell me you rub Vaseline all over or dielectric grease and that protects it, because I haven't seen that. It just usually gums it up. Now, some people will disagree with me and say dielectric grease all day, bro. I just paint it on there and it's good. Let's agree to disagree on that one. But at any rate, put down any helpful tips that you guys have encountered and what you've used. And even if it's a can of soda, I've heard of people using Coca-Cola too. That's got a lot of acidic properties in it, so it just eats the acid away. But who wants to waste a fresh can of soda when you can use some baking soda and some hot water? That's all I got for this video. Thanks as always for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Deuces.